Hi, I'm Jerry Bowyer. You're watching the Eagle Investing Network, and I hope you'll hit the subscribe button as soon as you can. In fact, I can wait a moment. Just go hit the subscribe button. I've got time. All right, done? Good. And after this video, maybe you can send this video link to somebody else so that they can learn a little bit about this and subscribe themselves. All right, well, the idea here is to learn about different kind of investments and how it interacts with the economy. I'm a financial economist, which means I'm in the world of finance and economics at the same time. Modern portfolio theory, which has dominated the academia world, and won something like 6 or 7 Nobel Prizes, is based on the idea that financial markets don't really have much to do with the economy. That's a mistake. And it's a mistake that has caused a lot of heartache, especially leading up into the Great Recession. So that's really kind of a discredited idea now. The economy and markets are interrelated. They don't perfectly correlate, but they're related to one another. How could they not be? Okay, we're going to talk about commodities today. Copper in particular. Have you ever heard of Dr. Copper? Dr. Copper is an expression that is made to represent the idea that copper is a good forecaster of the economy. Copper tends to go up in price when the economy is going to recover and down in price when the economy is not going to do well. So we're looking at the copper price there in front of you, and we see this over time. And generally it fits pretty well. And as you can see, copper sold off very, very badly with the COVID period. And it was right. The economy really did slow down a lot. And then it went up a lot during the recovery period, and then down a little bit because there's on again, off again parts to this recovery. You know, here's the original COVID, here's another strain, here's, oh, we're better, here's another strain. You know how it works. You lived through it. And now is very high, historically the highest ever. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take copper. We're going to break this line down into individual dots. You see that? Now we're going to rearrange these dots into the order of price. So now instead of earlier, later, we have lower price, higher price. We did a little bit to the numbers. It's not just the straight up price. We've made some adjustments. One of them is for inflation so far. So it's the real price of copper. So it's copper adjusted for inflation. So if copper goes up 5%, but the price of everything else goes up 5%, we don't consider that a rise in copper price for this purpose. I mean, obviously a rise in price, but we're taking out the inflation portion. Well, the inflation portion is important, but it's not important for the question we're trying to ask right now, which is what are growth expectations? When people are building houses around the world, they're building phone systems, they're building electronic goods, they're putting in plumbing, they use copper, they buy the copper in order to, to use for that growth. It's a productive, it's an industrial commodity. When that happens, that tends to drive the price of copper up. We want to tell the difference between the increase in copper price due to inflation and the increase in copper price due to rising demand, which is focused on growth. The other thing we've done is we've made a adjustment for the supply of copper. It's a little complicated to go into now. Maybe we can go into it in the future, but sometimes the price of something, well, always, the price of something changes because of supply and demand. We just want to know what's going on with demand. Okay, so we look at that. We've rearranged this, and what we see is, hey, this is what we in the statistics game would say a pretty good fit. That at times when the adjustments I described, when the adjusted price is low, are times when the global GDP for the next year tends to be low. See, as you go along the line, we're going down this scale. As we go along the line, we're going down this scale. Or, differently, as the adjusted price is going up, global GDP is going up. And so you've got this upward sloping line. And it's a pretty good fit. Now, here's where we are now, 12-month average and current. This is saying that the world economy is going to boom. Even though I think this is a pretty good fit, I don't believe this number. Now, I know I've talked to you about how all of us know more than some of us, and we economists don't know more than markets, and that's absolutely true. But we also have to adjust sometimes. It's pretty clear that because, as we've seen in previous videos, inflation expectations are growing, some of what's going on in copper is very likely people buying it as an inflation hedge. When inflation is high, then commodities go up in price. Now, we've already accounted for past inflation in this copper price, but what about future inflation? It seems pretty clear that around the world, people are building copper to use to fuel the growth of the industrial economy in the third world, which is becoming the second world and maybe someday joins the first world, going from emerging to developed. But it's also pretty clear that speculators are hedging against inflation by buying copper because they think it's going to go up in price. So I do not believe in the booming global economy. Recovery, yeah. Probably higher growth in the United States, probably higher growth in the world than in the United States. We're going to do that in a future video. So I think Dr. Copper is making two predictions. One, the economy is recovering around the world. There's more recovery around the rest of the world to go. But also, Dr. Copper is a little bit concerned about inflation. And I think Dr. Copper, my favorite redheaded economist, is probably right on both counts. So you buy commodities as inflation hedges and buying into growth. Commodities have those two functions. I think both functions are going on right now. So in the past, it's been a pretty good signal, and I would not ignore it and bet against growth. And it's also been a pretty good signal of future inflation, as our tips, which we looked at a couple of videos ago, and I wouldn't ignore that either. I'm Jerry Bowyer. Thank you for watching the Eagle Investing Network, and please hit subscribe and share this with some friends.